really interesting. And all of them, they are like around arts, and especially the Dark Room, which is a digital art marketplace, which is launching in July and is using Algorand. And another, I really suggest you to go to all the links that I put in the presentation, not only this one. And I wrote a month ago, I wrote an article on how digitalize your real estate asset. So if you go on the last link, you will see similar process that I will explain tonight. And plus, there's the second part of this article where I show how to create a fractional ownership auction listing. So basically, people that can invest in real estate and buy part of a small part of the asset instead of I'm selling a house and there is only one buyer. And one of the main down. What is the thing on the screen? Sorry guys. Okay, until now we've been using internet after information, and we can think about blockchain as a layer that sits on top of the internet. So before, we're still using internet to transfer text, image, program, and video. But now with blockchain, which is like a layer on top of the internet, we can actually transfer ownership, money, contracts, and different assets. Blockchain was mainly used to create fungible assets, which means you create an asset that is always the same, and like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. But at the moment, you can create NFTs, so the non-fungible asset. So each asset is unique to the blockchain, and I will explain later on how you create this asset which has a unique ID. The main concept here is, ideally when you create an NFT, you want to create using a forkless blockchain. A forkless blockchain, and we will see now, is basically a blockchain that forked in the future or has not been forked in the past. So when we say a forkless blockchain, it means a blockchain that has not been splitted. So what happens sometimes is developers find a bug in the blockchain, in the code, and they want to update that, and they create basically another version of the blockchain itself. And we can talk about soft fork and hard fork. So when there is a soft fork, it happened that, for example, you create your NFT block 900 in blockchain, and at some stage the developers say, okay, at block 1000 we're gonna have a soft fork, so there will be like a split of the chain, and there will be like a new chain with which is running an updated code. In the case, you will end up to have two versions of your asset, which doesn't make any sense because an NFT needs to be unique. And in the other case, there is like an hard fork. The developer, they update the code, they spin up a new blockchain with the new updated code, and the old blockchain is gone, and the result will be the new blockchain. And sometimes what they do, the developers, they ask you to swap your old coin, your old asset, to the new. So basically, the asset, the NFT that you created in the old blockchain is worthless again. And that's why Algorand is like one of the best solutions there, because it's a forkless blockchain, and it will never be forked in the future. Like it says like this. As you can see, the consensus protocol is a pure proof of stake, which it will not need a fork in the future. With Algorand, other property that you will have are like fast transactions, low transaction fee, and you can build also smart contract, and you can leverage the atomic transfer. And yeah, we will see in a few minutes how fast it is to create an NFT using Algorand. Alright, so the requirement here to create your NFT is basically you need to run a node in your machine. I believe there are some application or some software that allows you to do what I'm doing tonight, let's say online using their app. But yeah, tonight, like we're gonna start from scratch and we're gonna build an NFT using the command line that Algorand provided. So what you need to do if you want to do this at home, you need to run a node. There is a link here where explain how to install. It's really easy. If someone is here, the presentation, I can show you how to do it. And you need to install the command line. Again, it's like a few lines on your terminal, and it's really easy and quick to install. And a few things I need to mention before we start is with your account. When you create an account running your node, you are able to create only 1,000 assets. And if you need to create more than that, you need to create another account, and you can use the manager or the reserve address when you create the NFT to specify your own account. So if you wanna your main account as a reference to the, let's say, after the 1,000 assets, this parameter that allow you to link your old address. We will see that as well. An asset, so an NFT is some parameter, some mutable, and some mutable. So some of them, when you create the asset, they cannot be changed anymore, and some of them can be updated from the creator. So we will go through now the property of the asset, and after this I'll how to create the NFT. And by the way, I think yeah, we're gonna do this one. Yeah, we're gonna do this one. An artwork that my daughter made tonight. She's only 1 year and a half, so that's the best she can do. So there are a few properties that are mandatory. When you create the asset, and let's see the asset name. So the asset name is actually optional. The asset name is actually optional. This one is, you think like the asset name should be mandatory, but it's actually an optional parameter. And I'll show you why. Because when you create the asset, the important part of the asset is actually the asset ID, not the name. And so the asset name is identify the name of the asset, and yeah, it's a string parameter. You can add space and symbols, and it's a limit of 32 bytes, which means 32 characters. We've got the unit name, which is basically a short version of your name. You can think about the AUD for the Australian dollar, or whatever you think it's best for your asset. Decimal is important, that is required. The decimal basically is the number of digits to use after the decimal point when we display the asset. So let's say we want to create the asset of this artwork. In this case, we will set digital decimal to 0 because we don't want this asset to be divisible. And so for example, what happened here? Second. I'm back. So if set to 0, it means like we will have 1 unit of this asset. If we set to 1, it means we will have 0.1 in decimal, and so on. The total is another parameter which is required, and it represents the total supply of your asset. And yeah, there is a formula here. So when you set this parameter, you need to consider the supply at the value of the supply and the value of the decimal that you choose. So what's going to happen here, for example, if you want an asset with the total supply would be 200, you need to use this simple formula, which is the supply multiply 2 times 10 in this case, because we want 2 decimal and this is decimal, and yeah, and we give you a total of 20,000 that will generate 200 units divisible 10 times, basically. The asset URL is an optional value as well, and it's just an additional information that you can add to your asset. And for example, in my example of real estate, you can, for example, create the asset and you can link the asset with URL to the actual listing in the, for example, I use domain website, so that people they can refer to an actual description of the asset online. Finally, there is the creator parameter, which is required, which is the public address of the creator account. Once you set the creator, you cannot change it. And by default, I showed you before, there are some other parameters here. This one, the mutable asset parameter, if we don't specify them, then we get by default the creator public address. And yeah, so I think we can start creating the first asset. I'm going to bring up the console. So you cannot see this screen anymore. One second. My display, so it's better now. I can see what's going on. Okay. So as I said before, you need to run the node in your local machine, and I have already installed in my machine. So basically, to create the asset, you need to put together all these properties using the Algorand command line tool. And for instance, I got something here. Okay, let's say we want to create this asset, which I'll assign a name of Allegra, which is my daughter name, 01. And there is like another information we can add the note. The total is 1, unique name. You can say ALL1. Data here is just pointing the data directory when you install the node in your machine, and the wallet is my local wallet, and that's pretty much it. Like, if I run this command now, it will create the asset. It's gonna charge a fee, which is 0.001 Algorand. I got, I think, 5 Algorand at the moment, so I can create like 1,000 of them. So once you hit the button, it's gonna ask you the wallet password. And wrong password, of course. 1 second. So there you go. You can see that there's a transaction there. So we have the transaction ID, and it's still pending. It will take a few more seconds.
Round is your terminology for block.
What's that?
It says ending of round.
Yes, that's the block. Yes, correct. And yeah, the fee is one micro-algo, which means, as I said before, in Algorand it's like 0.001. So it's still taking some time.
What's the round time? Typical round time.
I tried this one before. It told me it took me 2 seconds. So, and sometimes like you need to, what after the actually after this one go through, you need to check your if your account is synced with the blockchain, because if it's not synced, it might delay.
Offline operations.
Yeah, so should not take that long. So pending. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create.
Jared, you could make the text a bit larger.
What's that?
Oh, make the text a bit larger.
Ah, sorry, yes, yeah. It's a bit difficult to hold
Yeah.
the microphone.
It's all good.
Grande.
Thanks.
Grande. How can I do that?
You can do Command plus.
Yeah. So, yeah, so you can see that it's not synced. So the sync time is 140 seconds. This one should be 0, and that's why the transaction is pending. It's gonna fail. So I think this one is a good opportunity. I'll show you something else, how to fast sync the wallet, because that's what you're gonna do when you start the node in your local. So let's wait a minute. yeah, so basically this one is the documentation for to install a node. If you guys have a Mac, like just these two commands, you can download the source code, change the permission, and run the installer. What I need to do now is to do this one, the fast catch up. So I'm using mainnet. You can also like use if you want testnet. So you don't actually need to use your Algorand. But for testnet, you go in this link, and it's gonna show you the block number, the latest block number. The connection is really slow. Loading. You think I can switch using my phone? Yeah.
The European drop.
Yeah.
That's the internet in Australia.
There you go. Wow, this one looks like it's working. So let me see. It's not here. So now I say sync time 0, so it looks like it's there. So I'm gonna try to run this command again and see.
Rounds are not sequential. Round numbers are going up and down.
Yeah, it should not take that long. Like usually it's like 3 seconds, like around like the third round, the fourth round, it creates the asset. It's something up with the connection. But what I can show you is if we go back here, so I got the block. So this is like the latest block. And what we can do a fast catch up. And the command is this one. So catch up and put the block. And I think you need to put the sorry, I'm just talking.
Thinking out loud?
Yeah, I'm thinking loud. Should do the trick. Okay, so what is happening is So you can see now that there is a catch point here, which is the block I inserted before. And yeah, we need to wait until this one gets in. And hopefully it's going to allow to create the asset. Yeah, so it's still doing the catch up.
Does anybody have questions while we wait for that to happen?
Yeah.
Do you have to be Italian to work in?
What?
Do you have to have an Italian accent to work in Algorand?
Yeah, maybe the founder is Italian, so okay.
What happened to the missing blocks? It's not sequential, so why?
I'm not really sure. That's a good question. I think, yeah, they're not sequential, I guess, because if you think about in the blockchain, there are other people doing other things with other blocks. So it might, I don't know, skipping those that are used from someone else. Not sure.
Any other questions?
To what degree have you got some code change or people coming in or about to come in to have interoperability with Ethereum? Because NFTs obviously they're really using Ethereum right now.
Yeah.
What's the latest on that?
Okay, like I said before, like the main benefit is the transaction fee. If you guys had a chance to use Ethereum to get an NFT, you will see that the gas fee, especially when the network is busy, they're like super expensive. I remember a while ago, I did a swap with an NFT with another person, and I paid under $20 in gas fee, which is like ridiculous. With Algorand, you will always pay 0.001. Even like if you're transferring a non-NFT asset, if you're transferring $1 million Algorand, you're gonna get charged 0.001. That's the main, I think.
But the reality is that people outside of the crypto bubble don't know about Algorand.
That's the thing.
They know of Ethereum because it's
Yeah.
behind DeFi, it's behind NFTs, and that type of thing. Don't get me wrong, I think I think Algorand is a superb brand.
Yeah.
But it's the perception that's going to restrict its adoption, in my opinion, in the short term.
Yeah.
But except for one thing that you highlighted whilst you're waiting to go through, that it's carbon negative.
Yes.
Which is, because we're talking to a lot of people in the NFT space right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had more conversations around the environment in the past 3 months
Mm-hmm.
than I've had in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And that's because NFTs are heading towards the mainstream.
Yeah.
The crypto bubble accepts that the environment is crap.
Yeah.
Repeat the question. Repeat the question
yeah.
for the stream.
Can't even remember what's the question, but yeah, I mean the main, like, no, you are asking like why people are still not using Algorand. They prefer to go to Ethereum rather than Algorand. I don't know. That's like a question that I ask myself as well. It's
Well, for one thing, Ethereum has been around for
Yeah.
5 years. Algorand for one.
Yeah.
I think we need to give it time to grow as much
Yeah.
time as Ethereum had, at least, or maybe a little less.
And also, like, I'm sponsoring here Algorand today, but there are other chains that are like better than Ethereum. So people just get stuck with something. And it's like, you stream on Netflix, but there are other options out there. And yeah, let's see, maybe.
The first thing I noticed about Algorand was when I visited the website, it's trademarked, and it's like I'm new to the space, but I assume that most of these popular projects they are open source. Are there any advantages as a proprietary tech for Algorand over other blockchains?
So I didn't catch your
Is-
question.
What's the advantage of using Algorand over blockchains if Algorand is trademarked? It's a proprietary tech.
Yeah. it's still free to use. Like, you are able to build your app using Algorand. But yeah, I'm not really aware about what's happening for trademark and legal things.
I think the name's trademarked, but not the technology is patented, but it's free to use.
Yeah, like the code itself, it's on GitHub. Like, you can see the code, and you can use, there are like SDK that you can use for to build your application. So it's
I think that Silvio is obviously a big MIT guy. MIT license.
Yeah. Yes.
And I know that to your question earlier, Tim, that Stephen wrote understands that the CEO understands the network effect and how much of a barrier they have to overcome there. But the one thing I will say, I had the opportunity to, I don't know if people could hear me on the live stream, but I had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Silvio some time back and go through his design for Algorand, and the pure point of stake system is quite unique and very, very interesting. So that, whatever the challenges with the fact that it's a proprietary Silicon Valley style company that's trying to do some stuff and MIT licenses, that part is the really interesting part. And there's nothing else out there that's follows that design, and I highly encourage you to look into the pure proof of stake algorithm and some of the stuff that he's accomplished, because Silvio is like has invented a lot of the cryptography technology, or been involved in the invention of that's used in other projects. That was the thing that was most impressive to me.
Yeah, and those, like, as I mentioned before, it's Algorand reached like a level of decentralization with nodes that it will never get forked. So like that's like another reason why people should consider Algorand to build an NFT rather than Ethereum. Ethereum, like, there's gonna be like a new version of Ethereum because they realize that they cannot handle all the transactions happening on their network. Instead, like, if these things work, you're gonna see how fast it is to create an NFT and how fast it is, like, to transact this asset between wallets. So yeah, it looks like it's done. You can see the catch point is this, and persisted is this one.
We have one more question. Hold on a second.
I don't know a lot about the crypto space. Just what's stopping Ethereum just copying a lot of the good things about Algorand that they can copy when they already have, the entire network behind them? Like, yeah, I suppose that's a question in my mind. It's like, if there are these things that make it so much better, why wouldn't that just get copied?
Yeah, I said again, like, legally, I'm not really aware what people can do and what people they cannot do. But if you start building, like, I think the architecture of the code is completely different. So, in like as a developer, I'm thinking just you can't copy and paste things from another code and adapt to your architecture.
So it's less like a design and more about like
the
actual way they built it is completely different.
Yeah, it's completely different. Like, it's what's your name? Sorry, Rob mentioned before. Silvio created like a really unique architecture of how the consensus protocol works. That or you start from scratch using Algorand, or it's impossible to adapt whatever he did to another code.
I think it's also fair to say is that Ethereum is proof of work.
Yeah,
Not for long. But we're talking about proof of stake.
I suppose it's sort of like, if this is better as a competitive advantage and it starts growing positively, then you'd imagine Ethereum sees that.
I'll give you the simple answer to that. Ego. they can't even implement their own architecture, let alone somebody else's. I mean,
Speak to Mike.
they can't even organize their own architecture here, they can implement somebody else's.
I mean, that's maybe.
I mean, they're trying.
Sorry, the really big friction is like the design of Ethereum proof of stake. Even it's just fundamentally different to how Algorand works, and so it would be very different for Ethereum to adopt that technology, not impossible. Anyone who's using the code or IP of on the open source repositories of Algorand is subject to the MIT license, which means that it has some limitations on competition. So I mean, it's possible, and certainly a lot of the individual ideas that are in Algorand are used in other projects, but the particular proof of stake design, as far as I know, is still unique. Pretty hard to replicate for most existing projects wouldn't easily be able to adjust to use that, but new projects could form using those approaches.
And it's like a significant advantage, right, in terms of like efficiency.
I can't categorically, like, can't with expertise say that, but it seems to at least have a very well thought through design by a deep expert on how to solve the blockchain trilemma by understanding very much where the edges of that are. I mean, you've got basically distributed computing has certain limitations that are inherent, and you can't change those, but it's a very clever design. Which took me about an hour of talking to Sylvia to actually understand. And when I understood it, I was like, oh shit, okay, it's really, really fascinating. It was also like a year ago, so I'm not blurring the details.
Is it ready, Vince?
Fine.
Okay, I think the internet decides to not come to this meetup. Any other questions while we?
What type of applications are being developed in Algorand as we speak, and which country is more popular in, like where it is taking more traction, like which part of the world?
Yeah, I mentioned before in the first slide, there is enough marketplace platform building using Algorand, and it's gonna, there you go, the assets being created. It's gonna be live in July. There are a few other projects using Algorand as a payment system as well. There is a coffee brand in Italy using Algorand on their website to buy coffee.
Oh, Kimbo, is it?
No, it's not Kimbo.
That's my name.
That's your name.
Named after the Italian coffee brand.
That's cool. But yeah, if you want to know more, if you go to the website, they can you can see all the project using Algorand, and also I'll show you here on the Explorer. There is apps. So here is more. It can't really tell you who is doing what, but basically this is the ID of an application running on Algorand. And yeah, if you go here, you can see who is the creator of this application, and yeah, it should be like other information here. But yeah, I mean, you can't really I can't really answer your question going through here because there will be like millions of apps running on Algorand. I only myself, like I spin up, I don't know, hundreds applications.
In Australia, there's at least 2 projects that I know of. One is called Mel Gold. They're doing gold, precious metals tokens, gold, silver, and platinum, I think, coming up. There's another one called Yieldly, like they're doing yield, finance, DeFi. I don't really understand that space very well yet, so I will do a meetup with them so I can, and hopefully you as well. And there's also some DEXs coming on the Algorand ecosystem, not in Australia. There is something called Algomint that's gonna have like a bridge with Bitcoin and Ethereum with Algorand for swaps. And I think a lot of the projects that are on the Algorand ecosystem right now are in Europe and the United States.
Yeah. Thanks, Adriana. So we got these things working. So what happened here, you can see we use the goal asset create command line, and we specify these all the parameters I mentioned before. What this transaction does, it creates an asset with an asset ID, which is unique. If you think about, if you're used to work with an Oracle database, this can be like a primary key on a MySQL database, for example. And what I'm going to show you guys is if we go on the Algorand Explorer and I copy and paste this asset ID, you can see that it's already there. And it's going to show you all the information we specified during the creation. So the name, that's the default frozen is false, so no one can freeze this asset. The creator, which is the address, the public key I used during the creation. And as I mentioned before, there are other parameters that are mutable, and they are by default set using the public key. Other technical information, manager address, clawback account, freeze address. If anyone here is the Algorand app, we can actually try to send this asset to you guys. Anyone wants to test?
Rob, pull up your wallet. Anybody? Is the Algorand wallet? I mean, I do, but it would be better if it was on one of you. There you go. We have a contender. What do you need, Vince?
So what you need to do, like before accepting the asset, you need to opt in. So you need to add the asset in your wallet, and to do that, is it here that you have the yeah. So if you open the app, yeah. So come over there.
Go over there. Go over there with him. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Let's make this live work.
You can see that this is my wallet. So the asset I created is Allegra01. It's already showing in my wallet. What you need to do to receive this asset is to add this asset ID in your wallet. So what you do is go back on set. So you already have your main wallet. So you do add asset here, and you search by this ID. 22 72 27 175, and you need to go all. There you go. So you see, have you got some Algorand in your wallet? No, okay, that's fine. It's not gonna work. You need at least 0.1. That's fine. I can send it to you.
Oh, lucky.
Okay, so let's do. I'll send you to Algorand. And address, I can actually scan. Where is the scan option? There you go. So if you go back in your wallet, you got this one. So this is your address. And I add the note tab. I'm transferring you to Algorand. Yeah. So hit send, and this should take 6 seconds to get to you.
Refresh.
Yep. There you go.
Okay,
Now-
you got 2 algorithms now.
Oh yeah, so now we search for.
No, 2 algos, not 2 algorithms.
Yes, well, so,
Can't form up when it can only be one.
Yeah, there can only be one.
and yeah, you need to have the asset, which is 22, 72, 27, 175. Yes, there you go. You do that.
Cool. I think it's.
It should be there. So what are we gonna do? There you go.
Oh, yeah.
First step. And you can see that you got 0 unit of the asset.
Mhm.
So doing that, what you did just now, you opted in into for this asset. You could do the same thing through the command line. So there is a command line as we did create asset. There is a command line goal of the you can opt in an asset. So but it's nice to do through the app.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna send to you this address. So amount I put max, which is 1, and I've scanned your wallet again. And I'll put a note your first NFT. You and it said to me send the token. So it's been sent, and now you're gonna receive the note. For a second.
Oh yeah. Cool.
There you go. So to do all this couple of transactions, it took you, if you go back in your main account, you will see you had before 2 algo, and now you have 1.99.
Yeah,
Or you use like 0.002, which is like nothing.
And now you're the owner of the
My
NFT of this beautiful child painting.
yeah. Myself and millions.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a picture?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Does the painting go
Yeah,
with
yeah, you
it?
can have it.
Oh, yeah.
The
I
main
was
guy-
gonna take the painting. Thank you. Okay. But even if I took that, that's not the original anymore. So
Yeah, that's like the physical, but he now owns the digital representation of the asset. So if you think about, if you go back to the presentation, so yeah, we did this part, we create the asset, and you can achieve the same result using the SDK that Algorand provides. If you're familiar with any programming language like Go, Java, JavaScript, or Python, you can do the similar things. There are the transactions, as I mentioned before. You can modify an asset, so you can update those mutable parameters. You can receive an asset, and he just received the asset. Basically, receiving asset is obtaining the asset. He did that through the app, and I transferred the asset using the app as well. But I could do the same using the command line. There is the link to the documentation if you want to learn a bit more. So what's next? Like, this is like really basic because he now has the asset, but what he's gonna do with it? Like, no one knows that he got one. So ideally, you know, there are like all these marketplace of NFT where these NFT they get published and people they can bid on them, like they can buy, they can sell. So ideally, if we think about in the art space, so let's consider, for example, that he's an artist and he has his own website with lots of artworks in there, and each artwork has its own asset ID. So he minted all these artworks in the Algorand blockchain, and he can decide to start selling those assets using Algorand. But the next stage would be like to build, you know, his application that use like smart contracts And in the smart contracts, you can specify that every time this asset gets transferred between address, the creator gets a royalty percentage. So let's say he's gonna sell the asset in, I don't know, 5 months' time to someone else, and that person is willing to pay $100. We could have a smart contract there that every time this asset change from address to address, it's gonna send a 10% royalty to the creator. That's like something that is not happening at the moment with galleries. I have a few friends that they are artists and they sell their artworks to galleries, and once the gallery gets like 30% on top of your sale, and someone else wants to buy the artworks, the artist will not see any money after that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna tell Adriana to send you these slides, guys, and you can follow up with me later.
What's the difference between stateless smart contract and a stateful smart contract?
Yes. So.
Can you repeat the question because that didn't work?
Yeah, sorry. So what's the difference between stateless and stateful smart contract? It's basically stateful smart contract. You specify use stateful smart contract when you need to keep the state of the variable that you use in your application. Stateless is just to do some transaction that doesn't require to memorize global information. That's like the really high level definition. If we think about, as I said before, if you wanna write an application for selling art, you might want to, I don't know, have a global variable, which is the art creator, which is his address. So you're gonna need a stateful smart contract that memorize his address, because you will need in the future, every time this transaction happen in the application, through a stateless smart contract, you will need a value to send a 10% of royalty to the creator.
So Alice sells art to Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Ownership of that contract does moves to Bob. That's a state change. That's stateful. What part of it is stateless? If you do a global change, it changes some parameter globally.
Yeah.
That's also a state change.
Yes. Let's say before, for example, I'll give the example of the article I wrote. So you want to mint your property. So let's say that's an asset. You digitalize your house. What happens there is you decide to sell your asset, and you decide to sell through multiple people. So you don't want to you want to use blockchain because you want more people to buy your asset. You don't want to sell to a single person, because that single person has 1.5 million to buy your asset. So what happened there, for example, you will need a clawback account or escrow account, which is in between you and the buyers. So what happened in the case, the buyers, they're gonna send, for example, there are 4 people and they want to buy a quarter of your asset. Let's do like even numbers. So your asset is 1 million. There are 4 people, they're gonna put 250,000 each one. So each person is gonna own a quarter of your asset. This money, before go to you, because like you want to sell the asset only if you reach your 1 million. This money they're gonna go first in an escrow account, this escrow account use a stateless smart contract to receive these assets, money from the buyers, and you can specify in your stateless contract, say when if the target, the state target is reached, then you transfer this money, this asset to the owner, which is you. So in that case, for the escrow account, you're gonna use a stateless smart contract, and
A stateless smart contract to account for the accumulation of assets to the threshold.
yeah,
Once the threshold is met, then the stateful smart contract
it's gonna transfer, yes.
So actually the prior transactions are not stateless, they're stateful within a side chain or within a closed environment.
Yeah, yeah,
With each 250,000 increase in the pool amount is a state change inside
inside the local,
the side chain or what it is.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So it's stateful, stateless only from the point of view of the mainnet.
yeah. I think there was another question. That's the other.
The other mic stopped working.
Uh,
Who is it? Here.
So
Yeah.
how do I know that NFT links to that asset?
to the address.
No, how do I know that NFT links to that artwork?
To that piece of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before, like you could have, there are marketplaces out there that you can actually see visually the asset. He's an artist, he has his own website, and he mint all these artworks. So, for instance, he can have a page where you can see the artwork, and in the description he will mention the asset ID, and he will link that asset ID to the Explorer, as I showed before. So he can actually link from his website to this page, where he can actually show you who is the creator. And he can also have this address in his website, like say, this is me, like this is my address. And if you go on his address, you can actually see all the other assets he created, if the connection works. So from here, you can see all the other assets I created using this address. And you can keep track of all the asset he created, and also you can keep track of where the asset went. So like who bought the asset from him.
But what's stopping the artist from creating the same NFT, like NFT based on the same physical object on a different blockchain?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Like, yeah, you could do it.
On the very same thing.
Yes.
I guess his desire for his NFT to be exclusive and be worth more. The same with a painting. You can create 2 or 3 of the same paintings, but you do one and you sell that one because you want it to be exclusive. Some artists, they actually mint prints of that one of a 100 edition, for example. And there are only going to be 100 of that thing living in the wild.
But in this case, what problem is not solved? Because you could just pay that money.
Sorry, what was your question?
So in this case,
Yeah.
what problem did it solve? Because at the end of the day, you have to trust that you only sold it to him.
Yeah,
And
which is,
also,
yeah, you don't need to trust, but that's
your website may not exist in 2 years' time because it's just like a starting artist website, right? If you make
yeah, but
this one.
and the blockchain it will stay there. So the blockchain it will not disappear as your website.
Yeah.
So
But it's just like a bunch of hashes. Like, I mean, he could have just paid you as an artist.
yeah,
How
but
do you see what-
no, but yeah, that's what I say. Like in that, like the future will be like a next step of this one, it will be to build something out of it. So, and a use case can be rewarding the artist every time this asset is transferred to someone else, because currently in the art market, okay, he bought this artwork from me. I'm the creator. I sold him for $100. Tomorrow he decides to sell that piece of art because he doesn't like it anymore. The artist is kind of disappear. Like, I don't see what's happening out there with my piece of art. Instead with blockchain, you can still keep track what is happening, and I can get rewarded. So every time there is like a transaction, I can get like 5-10%. That's like one use case.
It's just that people trust that the hash keys are worth using these property rights.
Yeah, but what I gathered was that you're working on it to build other solutions on top of your network. Is that right? Using your SDK.
So what do you mean?
Like what I was hearing, like we didn't say, but like because you have an SDK, maybe someone comes and says, yeah, I'm going to enable artists in regional area that don't even have a website.
Yeah.
Right? To be like another solution, so to enable them to sell NFTs, their arts to other people, so people don't need to trust them. But then I don't want to implement the blockchain, so I build it on Algorand.
Yeah, but
I guess the really powerful thing behind the blockchain is that as soon as that's registered at that particular point in time, you can go to a court of law and say, I bought, for instance,
yeah, there's also like
you can prove that. So if you say to me, no, I've actually
let the meetup live here. We will re-record
But
this and send to you.
yeah,
Probably
but
before the end of the
but
week.
if it's an offline thing, which is what we're talking about, that's impossible.
Well,
I mean, there is synthetic DNA spray over actual paintings that will identify the painting. But in terms of actually being able to identify the original, that's not maybe probably
It takes
a
a
whole
whole
lot
lot
of
of